You know that feeling? The moment when your stomach drops, when your world tilts sideways, when you realize something you thought was impossible is actually real. For Heather Salines' daughter, that moment happened on an ordinary night. She was just looking for something, her mom's laptop. Nothing serious. Just a quick search for a school assignment, something she'd done 100 times before. But the second she opened the screen, her life as she knew it was over. At first, she wasn't even sure what she was looking at. Messages. A conversation thread. Text bubbles, some blue, some gray. And then, pictures. Videos. Explicit ones. She didn't understand. Not at first. She scrolled up. Read the words. Let them sink in. And then, she felt her heart stop beating. Her boyfriend's name. Over and over. His words. His face. And then her mother's name. Her mother's face. Her mother and her boyfriend. Together. It didn't make sense. It couldn't make sense. She read the messages again. Over and over. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe it was someone else. Maybe. And then she saw it. A picture. A selfie. Heather Salines. Lying in bed. Hair tousled. Bare shoulders. And the caption? Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. She slammed the laptop shut so hard the whole desk shook. Her hands were shaking. Her chest felt tight. No. No, no, no. She couldn't breathe. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. But it was. And that's when she heard the door open behind her. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. Unknowing. She turned. And there she was. Heather Salines. Her mother. The woman who raised her. The woman who packed her lunches, tucked her in at night, kissed her forehead when she was sick. Heather smiled. Just a normal motherly smile. Hey, sweetie, she said casually. What are you up to? The daughter stared at her. Frozen. There were so many things she could say. So many things she could scream. Instead, she just ran. A voice. Frantic. Desperate. 911, what's your emergency? A shaky breath. I need to report something. Pause. My mother, she's been sleeping with my boyfriend. Silence. Then, screaming. The sound of something shattering. A life, a family, an entire reality. And then, because this is only the beginning. You ever hear people say, you never really know someone? Well, that was never a thought that crossed anyone's mind when it came to Heather Salines. She wasn't just a mother, she was the kind of mom other kids wished they had. The cool mom. The one who never hovered too much but was always around. The one who let her daughter's friends crash at their house whenever they wanted. The one who ordered pizza without being asked, drove them to school dances, and never scolded them for staying up too late. She made people feel comfortable. Like she was one of them. And for a while no one thought twice about it. Until her daughter's boyfriend, let's call him Ryan, started to change. It happened subtly at first. Little things that didn't seem to matter. Ryan used to be the loud one in the group, the jokester, the kid who always had something sarcastic to say. But lately he was different. Quieter. More withdrawn. Like he was constantly distracted, his mind somewhere else. He barely made eye contact anymore. He flinched when people touched him, even casually. His grades started slipping, his usual enthusiasm fading into something dull and lifeless. And the person who noticed first? His twin brother. Let's call him Lucas. Lucas wasn't stupid. He knew his brother better than anyone. And whatever was happening with Ryan, it wasn't normal. But when he asked about it, when he pushed, when he practically begged for answers, Ryan just brushed it off. I'm fine, he'd say. I'm just stressed. Lucas didn't buy it. Not for a second. Because whatever was going on, it wasn't just about school or stress or anything normal. And the worst part? Lucas had a gut feeling that someone else was involved. But who? One night, Lucas was at Ryan's house, sitting on the couch, mindlessly scrolling through his phone. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Ryan was upstairs and their mom was out. The only other person in the house? Heather. She was sitting across the room, legs tucked under her, her phone in her hand. And that's when Lucas saw it. A message, just a glimpse. A text that popped up on Heather's screen for only a second before it disappeared. You're making me nervous. What if someone finds out? Lucas frowned. The message vanished almost immediately, like she had notifications set to delete instantly. Weird. But before he could think too much about it, Heather looked up. Their eyes met. And for the first time, something in her face didn't seem right. Her expression was too calm. Like she had seen him looking. Like she knew he saw something. Lucas quickly looked away, his heart pounding in his chest. Something was wrong. And he needed to find out what. Betrayal isn't something that happens all at once. It's slow. It creeps up on you. A feeling in your gut. A whisper in the back of your mind telling you something is off, even when everything looks normal. Heather Salines' daughter had that feeling. She just didn't know why. It started with a simple conversation. A harmless one. Heather's daughter, let's call her Emily, sat on the edge of her bed, scrolling through her phone, biting her lip. Her boyfriend Ryan hadn't texted back in hours. That wasn't like him. He was always quick to respond. Always sending goofy memes, voice messages of him singing off-key little good morning texts that made her smile. But lately? Nothing. She sighed, locking her phone. And then, her bedroom door cracked open. Hey, sweetheart. It was Heather. Holding a cup of tea, her usual warm, motherly smile in place. You okay? You seem a little off. Emily hesitated. Should she say it? Heather stepped inside, sitting on the bed beside her, brushing a piece of hair behind her ear like she used to do when Emily was little. And that was all it took. Emily exhaled, finally letting the words slip out. It's Ryan. He's been acting weird. Distant. Like he's hiding something from me. She expected her mom to say what moms always say. Maybe he's just stressed. Boys can be moody. Give him space. But Heather didn't say any of that. Instead, she smiled. A strange smile. Almost relieved? Sweetie, she murmured, squeezing Emily's hand, I'm sure it's nothing. You're overthinking. He loves you. Emily frowned. Something about the way Heather said it didn't sit right. But she pushed the thought away. Heather was her mom. She trusted her. And she had no idea, none at all, that her mother was the reason Ryan had changed. A few days later, Emily was home alone. Heather had left her phone charging on the kitchen counter. It wasn't locked. Emily wasn't snooping, at least that's what she told herself. She just needed to check something, a quick Google search. She picked it up. And that's when she saw it. A notification. A name. Ryan. She almost dropped the phone. Her heart stopped. Ryan? Her boyfriend? Messaging her mother? Her breath hitched as the notification disappeared. Her fingers moved on their own, opening Heather's messages. And then, her world fell apart. Text after text. Some were subtle. Last night was amazing. Others weren't. I can't stop thinking about you. I wish we could be together all the time. Pictures. Videos. Her mother's face. Her mother's body. Emily's hand shook. Her stomach twisted. She felt sick. No. She dropped the phone like it had burned her, stumbling backward, hands over her mouth, her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be real. Her mother. Her boyfriend. Together. And then, footsteps. The front door unlocking. Heather was home. Emily froze. Her mother walked into the kitchen, setting her purse down, completely unaware that her secret had just been exposed. And Emily? She snapped. What the hell is this? Heather barely had time to react before Emily was shoving the phone in her face, the screen still lit up with the messages, the proof. For a second, just a second, Heather's mask cracked. Her face went pale. And then she recovered. She sighed, shook her head, gave a soft, pitying smile. Oh, sweetheart, you don't understand. Emily's stomach turned. Heather reached out, gentle, like she was comforting a child. It's not what you think. Emily yanked away. Don't lie to me. Heather sighed again, patient, like Emily was overreacting. You misunderstood. Those messages, they aren't real. You're just emotional. You're jumping to conclusions. Emily felt like she was going to explode. Stop gaslighting me, she screamed. I saw them. I know what you did. Heather's expression darkened. Just for a second. And that's when Emily realized. Her mother wasn't panicking. She wasn't begging. She wasn't afraid. She was calm. And that was the most terrifying thing of all. Because Heather wasn't trying to deny it. She was trying to control it. Control her. Like she had always done. Like she had done to Ryan. Emily's hands curled into fists. Her throat felt tight. She had to get out of there. But before she could move, Heather reached for the phone. Come. Steady. Like this was nothing but a game. Why don't you give that to me, sweetheart? Emily clutched it to her chest, shaking. Heather took a step closer. Emily. Another step. Her mother's voice was too soft. Like she was coaxing her into handing over the only proof she had. The phone. The truth. Heather smiled. Be a good girl and give it to me. Betrayal cuts deep. But this was something else. Something rotted. Something beyond evil. Because Ryan wasn't the only one. She had them both. Emily ran. She didn't know where, didn't know how far. She just needed to get out, needed air, needed to breathe. But no matter how hard she ran, how far she went, she couldn't outrun what she'd just seen. Ryan, her mother, the texts, the proof. Her body trembled, a sick feeling churning in her gut. And then, a voice. Emily? She froze, turned. And there, standing beneath the dim glow of the street lamp, was Josh, Ryan's twin brother. His brows furrowed, concern etched into his face. Are you okay? Emily opened her mouth, then stopped. Because Josh wasn't just looking at her. He was looking at the phone in her hand. Her grip tightened. Emily, he tried again, voice quieter this time. Is this about my brother? Emily swallowed hard. He knew. Josh sighed, rubbing his hands over his face. God. And then he whispered something that made Emily's blood run cold. She said it would ruin everything. Emily's stomach twisted. Josh hesitated. A beat too long. And that's when Emily saw it. The way he couldn't meet her eyes. The way his shoulders tensed. The way his hands shook. Emily took a step closer. Josh. Silence. Then, a whisper. She told me not to say anything. Her heart stopped. The world tilted. Not just Ryan. Both of them. Josh's words came in fragments. Pieces. Broken confessions. Heather had played them differently. Ryan? He was made to feel like the chosen one. Like their love was something special. Something secret. Like he was the only one who really understood her. But Josh? Josh was made to feel like it was his fault. Like it was something he wanted. Like he was the one who started it. You kissed me first, remember? I was scared too. But I knew you'd keep me safe. Ryan would never understand us. Heather had twisted them. Controlled them. Ruined them. Josh's voice cracked. She said if anyone found out, Ryan would hate me. Emily felt sick. It wasn't just manipulation. It was calculated. A perfect web of lies. And Heather? She was the spider sitting at the center of it all. Josh sniffed, wiping his eyes. Then hesitation. Like he wanted to say something else. Emily's breath hitched. What? Josh shifted uncomfortably. There's something you need to see. Emily followed him. Through the back streets. Past the houses. To the place they swore they'd never go again. The abandoned shed. Josh hesitated before stepping inside. The cobwebs. The smell of rotting wood. And then, he crouched down, lifted a loose floorboard, and pulled out a box. Emily stared. Josh handed it to her, his hands shaking. You need to open it. Emily's fingers trembled as she lifted the lid. And inside, hell itself. Polaroids, texts, printouts, videos, proof. Proof that Heather had been doing this for years. Not just Ryan. Not just Josh. Others. Emily's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just betrayal. This was something darker. Something monstrous. And Heather? She had been so careful. So perfect. So convincing. Until now. Because now they had everything. Everything they needed to burn her entire world to the ground. The interrogation room is cold. Josh grips the edge of the metal table. Ryan sits beside him, eyes hollow, voice barely a whisper. And then, they tell everything. How it started. How it escalated. How Heather manipulated them into silence. How she made them feel like they were the ones who should be ashamed. But now, the shame belongs to her. Because there's evidence. The box. The texts. The photos. And suddenly this isn't just a disturbing story. It's a rock-solid case. A detective exhales, rubbing his temples. You did the right thing, he tells them. But it doesn't feel that way. Feels like drowning. Like waking up from a nightmare only to realize it was real the whole time. At first, Heather's husband defends her. He believes her. He says it's a misunderstanding. That people are twisting the truth. But then, he sees the messages, the videos, the evidence, and suddenly the memories come flooding back. The red flags. The small, strange moments he ignored. The way Heather controlled everything. The way she always said the boys were just moody teenagers, whenever he asked why Ryan seemed off. The time she kept Emily from having friends over. The way Josh flinched when she hugged him in public. The way Ryan got sick every time she entered the room. The way she convinced him he was imagining things. And now he sees it for what it really was. Manipulation. Control. And something so much worse. A sickness that had been growing inside their home for years. And he missed it. The courtroom is silent. All eyes on Heather. Her once flawless appearance is gone. No makeup, hair tied back, wearing an orange jumpsuit. She doesn't look broken. She doesn't look guilty. She looks like she's still in control. Like she still thinks she can win. The prosecution lays everything out. The text messages, the photos, the boys' testimonies, the manipulation, the grooming, the betrayal. The evidence is unshakable. And yet, Heather doesn't break. Instead, she takes the stand and twists the narrative one last time. She cries, plays the victim, says she was misunderstood, claims it was all a mistake, that Ryan was in love with her, and she didn't know how to handle it, that Josh was confused, and that she was only trying to help him, that she is a mother first, and would never hurt them. And for a split second, it almost works. But then, Ryan stands up. His voice breaks. You ruined my life. Heather's mask slips. For the first time, she looks afraid, because she's lost. And she knows it. The jury doesn't need long. When they return, the foreman stands. Guilty. On all counts. Heather doesn't react. Not at first. Then, the panic sets in. She looks to her husband. To Emily. To Ryan. To Josh. But none of them look back. She is alone. Just like she always should have been. And as she's led away, for the first time in her life, Heather Salines is no longer in control. And she never will be again. Months later, Emily sits on her porch, staring at the house across the street. Their house. The house where it all happened. The house that was once warm, safe, untouchable. Now, it's empty. Abandoned. Condemned. Just like the person who destroyed their lives. Josh is in therapy. Ryan is trying to heal. Their father is picking up the pieces. And Emily? She's still learning how to breathe again. But one thing is clear. Heather Salines is gone. And she is never coming back. Emily doesn't speak about her mother. She doesn't say her name. She doesn't even let people ask. Because how do you explain this kind of betrayal? How do you tell people that your own mother, your protector, was the monster? That she didn't just ruin lives, she ruined yours? She was supposed to guide Emily, protect her, love her. Instead, she destroyed everything. And the worst part? Emily can still hear her voice. Still see her smile. Still remember the days when she believed her mother was good. Now she wonders, was it ever real? Or was Heather always like this? Josh won't talk about it. He doesn't want to. Maybe he never will. He still clings to the lies Heather told him. The way she made him feel special. The way she whispered that she would always care about him. That he was different. That what they had was their secret. And now, if he admits what really happened, if he admits that she used him, then he has to admit that he was a victim. And he can't do that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Ryan though. Ryan is done being silent. Ryan is angry. Because he sees it for what it was. Abuse. Manipulation. Evil. Heather took his trust, his innocence, his childhood. And now he's the one who has to pick up the pieces. But he's fighting. Because he refuses to let her win. And when he looks in the mirror, he tells himself, she doesn't get to define me. Not anymore. One night, Emily's father sits alone, going through old papers. He doesn't know why. Maybe he's looking for answers. Maybe he's hoping to see something he missed. And then, he finds it. A name. An old note. A whisper of something from years ago. A girl Heather used to mentor. And when he looks her up, his stomach turns. Because that girl? She disappeared. She ran away. And no one ever knew why. Until now. Because when he finds her, when he asks, she tells him everything. And suddenly, Heather's crimes weren't just about Ryan. Or Josh. Or even Emily. There were others. So many others. Some who spoke up but weren't believed. Some who tried to forget. Some who never got the chance to tell their story. And now the real horror sets in. Heather Salines wasn't just a one-time predator. She had done this before. And who knows how many lives she shattered. Because the worst monsters, the real ones, are the ones who wear masks. And Heather's mask? It had been on for years. The Salines house sits vacant. Cold. Lifeless. The windows are boarded up. The mailbox, overflowing. No one wants it. No one wants to live in the place where a mother became a predator. Where trust was shattered. Where a family was destroyed from the inside. It's just a ghost of what it once was. And that's all that's left of Heather Salines. An empty house. A forgotten name. And a legacy of pain. Because in the end, the people she hurt will heal. But she will rot. And that's exactly what she deserves. And that's why we tell these stories. Because truth matters. Because silence protects predators. And because somewhere out there, someone else might be living this nightmare right now. Pause. Let it sink in. Then the energy shifts. A slight lift, just enough. So if you believe these stories need to be told, if you believe the truth should never be buried, make sure you're subscribed. Because Silent Weekend Crimes is just getting started.